most worrying to Trump, who's become increasingly synonymous with his party. He slipped on major issues that were major strengths. Just a few months ago, 53% of Americans approved of Trump's handling of crime. That has fallen to 43% in this new poll. There's been similar decline on immigration from 49% approval in March to 38% now. The new poll starkly illustrates how Trump has struggled to hold on to political wins since his return to office. Even border security, an issue on which his approval remains relatively high, has declined slightly in recent months. Kind of what we already knew.
All right, everybody. So the YouTube chat is back up.
Okay.
So we'll see how long YouTube be YouTubing, because that's what it does. So it's a combination
so we
of
were
YouTube.
off. So YouTube is just kind of fighting with us the way it fights with you guys usually most mornings.
Yeah,
Isn't it usually the
yeah.
TikTok that fights with you most mornings?
No, with TikTok, it's always dumb Trumpers that come in and just want to disrupt the show.
Okay.
That's all with TikTok is.
So should I feel slighted because they haven't done that to us yet this morning?
So I guess it's not. It's a rite of passage. It's a rite of passage.
I'm right of
It's a rite of passage to get a troll.
Yeah. Well, we haven't had a death threat yet, so the day is young.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, Amanda on YouTube. It looks like we're back. We're fighting YouTube as
so far,
Angry mentioned. YouTube is YouTubing, and it's fighting with us this morning.
So yeah, YouTube is YouTubing.
TikTok is TikToking.
Streamlabs is Streamlabbing, and I'm just busy.
Something's wrong when the only problem.
I'm busy trying to juggle everything to get it all working right.
Yeah,
and sometimes the air escapes from the tube on YouTube. So
that's true. That's true. And Taz,
something's wrong when Facebook is the one that's working.
Yeah, that's that.
That is true.
Let me check Facebook.
And Taz,
Facebook is still working.
But Taz still holds the record. Yes, she still holds the record for the number of trolls to come up into somebody's life and disrupt the show. I mean, it was at like 70 something, like 80 something. There was so many trolls that day. It was amazing. Like, it was impressive.
I think Facebook's not working either, by the way, gentlemen. Was live. We were only live for 5 minutes. What's that about? Never had these problems before.
So, well,
doesn't want to work in the morning.
Streamlabs is Streamlabbing, and YouTube is YouTubing.
Yeah, we're not.
StreamYard.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're not live at the Ghost Claw Productions anymore either. We're not live anywhere on Facebook. Huh.
So no, I had to go through OBS instead of Streamlabs, because for whatever reason, Streamlabs didn't want to cooperate right. OBS does.
It still doesn't want to. No wonder the Streamlabs or the Facebook chat stopped, because we're not actually there. Of course. All sorts of problems this morning. Let me see YouTube. Let me see if YouTube's on this end. Live production meeting, folks. Let me see. Set we're live, but it won't open. Unbelievable. These apps are German. Thomas is sick. Everyone else does too.
The caddy said a dictionary might do it. Might be like
something. Right, Amanda. It seems like the apps don't want us on the air as long as Thomas is not here. He's got a special control over him that we don't have, apparently.
So that's right, Ken. His technical difficulties Thursday.
It's
not truthful Thursday.
Technical glitch Thursday. Hello.
It's technical difficulty Thursday. Candy.
It's an interesting mix of
So-
the sound of coffee, the Kennedy effect, and the help desk.
So, Candy, while I don't have a soundboard, Kobe, take that with you and wear it with pride. Wear that shit with pride. Don't go into a corner. Don't go into a corner. Wear that with pride. Okay.
This is part of the thing too. I think we're trying to show. I don't want any special praise. I'm not seeking any special praise or anything like that. But we're trying to fight through all this, and I can only imagine Thomas is home in his bed going, "Oh my God, these guys are killing my show." But but we're trying to power through here. We're fighting with YouTube. We're fighting with. Actually, we're not fighting with TikTok, but we're fighting with Streamlabs. We're fighting with YouTube, and we're trying to power through here. I still have a cold. I don't have it as bad as Thomas, so that's allowed me to be here this morning. It's nice of him to ask, by the way. Nice of him to ask us to fill in. And
Bunny, good morning, Bunny.
Good morning, Bunny.
Just
Bunny
hot,
is-
just coming up here, just all hot, just straight up heat. How come I wasn't? Good morning to you too, Bunny.
Where is
Goddamn.
Bunny? Is that in the?
Bunny's in the
there's
YouTube chat.
Infernal-
She's
there's
no,
Infernal
Bunny's in
YouTube
the.
chat. Yay, we're back. Yes, we are.
She's
we're
in
still
the
here.
TikTok chat.
Oh, this is in the TikTok. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't see the TikTok chat for whatever reason,
Uh,
and I'm not sure why we're not live on Facebook anymore. But who the heck knows?
and Gambit said, Trump said it's sedition and treason to question his mental health.
Well, that's true. Well, at least in his opinion. At least in his opinion. But to question it, isn't that part of a Truthful Thursday? To question it. Absolutely.
Every day of this
Yeah.
administration is like a bad episode of The Apprentice.
I mean,
Every single day.
was there a good episode of The Apprentice?
Yeah.
The
The last episode that ended. That was
So
the
the ro-
best episode.
So the
ever.
rolling credits of the last episode, that was the best.
That was the best.
That was the best part.
Yeah.
At the end of the credits on a Marvel movie, it'll tell you that, Captain America will return or the Guardians will return.
Yeah.
At the end of the last Trump-hosted Apprentice, it should have said our long national nightmare is over. NBC, by the way, does not get enough blame for training him on how to handle television, on how to be this television personality. Whether we want to admit it or not, he is a trained television personality. He does know how to garner attention. He does know how to make the media chase its own tail and to talk about the things that he wants to talk about. He's very, very good at it. And
Yeah,
it's
that is
nothing that
true.
we want to admit. It's nothing, we don't want to give him credit. Sometimes we don't want to. Sometimes our political opposition to him is so strong that we don't want to give him credit for anything. But I think we have to be smarter than that, to be honest with you. And smarter, and I say that not because we're dumb people, but because we have to be smarter than that and
So-
admit when he's good at something.
yeah, absolutely.
You can only push back against it effectively when you completely understand what it is that he can and cannot do, what he's good at and not good at.
Just like Taz
He's-
says in the TikTok chat, yeah, he is good. He's great at marketing himself and driving a narrative.
Should have invited Taz to be on here this morning. That would have been fun. I've actually not talked to her so far, believe it or not. Little GCPR inside there. Should have
Oh, then-
invited her to be here this morning. Taz,
Well, then,
tell us if
Taz.
you need to tell us if you need the Zoom.
As a
Code,
matter
I
of
can
fact, you know what?
Somehow get it to you if I
You
can.
know what? I got it.
Okay.
I got you. I got you. I
All right,
got
he's
you.
all over it. He's all over it.
I got you.
Infernal in the YouTube chat asks, so was it sedition when they
All right,
constantly
Bunny. All right, Bunny. Goddamn. All right. I will send I will send you the link too, Bunny. Shit. Oh my God.
who is Bunny?
Bunny. Okay.
Bunny billionaire.
Bunny is
Part of the
she's part of the guild. However, she has
I am not,
she is the
by the way.
she has the worst taste in movies.
Oh,
Ever. She has the absolute worst taste in movies.
Throwing her under the short bus. There you go.
Under
Hey,
the
I-
short bus.
Hey,
I got a friend. I got,
Hey,
I
at
got a
least
friend
when-
underneath the short bus.
Hey,
There
listen,
you go.
that's
George,
that's,
you're very tall. When you get thrown under the bus, we at least make sure it's a full-size school bus for you.
yeah. I mean,
You
and
wouldn't
here's
fit
the
in the short
thing.
bus.
I mean, and while Bunny,
in
I
the
love like Bunny, I love you to death. I do. But goddamn.
let me do a couple of things really quick here. In the YouTube chat, Infernal says, was it sedition when they constantly questioned President Biden about his mental fitness and health and so on, or is it just for Trump? The answer is it's just for Trump, because President Biden didn't make a federal issue out of it, no pun intended. He didn't accuse people of sedition when they asked about his health or inquired about his mental health or physical health, for that matter. So it is just for Trump. It's part of the way that he does deflection. It's part of the way that he does attack. This president is constantly on the attack. It's very Nazi-like. Now, I know that you normally lose the argument as soon as you invoke Nazism, but it is very Goebbels. It's very late 1930s Germany, constantly on the attack, the daily outrage, the daily story to divert your attention away from other things that are actually really happening in the world. I'm very surprised, to an extent, I'm surprised that Trump was even willing to talk about them seizing that oil tanker last night, because I don't think they really want us to know how close to war we might very well be in Venezuela. But so yeah, Infernal, it is just for Trump. It is just for Trump. 9:05, 5 after the second hour of the Sound of Coffee here this morning on live with you on December 11th, 2025. A hearty welcome and hello to all the coffee beans. Thank you for being here. Thanks for giving us a chance and checking out something new and something different. Thomas is under the weather, but okay. Completely expect that he will be back with you tomorrow, live for a Flag on the Play Friday. We are live right now on well, we think we're live right now. We are live right now.
So we're
On
We're
still-
legends in our own
so
mind.
we're
Yeah.
still going. We're still going. And
We're
Hold on.
live on TikTok. We're live on the YouTube. We are live on gcpr.live. Just a reminder for you now for the rest of the broadcast day, coming up at let me see, it's Thursday. What is the schedule for the rest of the day? I know T. Nathan from 11.
so tonight,
Superplex party tonight?
Superplex party tonight. Probably not going to be Thomas there. Not sure if we're going to have, but so I will probably have to recruit. I will have to recruit General Gambit. So you got until tonight, man.
Yeah,
got-
really. You better charge your phone.
So you got until tonight to study up on some wrestling. What's happening? No, you don't have to do that, man. You have to study up on the wrestling, but make sure you got your phone charged.
Make sure the phone is charged and you got a set of earbuds somewhere. And then, of course, T. Nathan from 11 p.m. Conversations with T. Nathan. And we expect Thomas to be back tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. for a Flag on the Play Friday. Your questions and comments are welcome and encouraged. Annabelle says in the YouTube chat that, are we live? We think we are.
So we in the YouTube chat, I believe so. But to answer a question, the that I got in the TikTok chat from DJ. The bad taste in movies that Bunnies has. Okay. So
we're gonna beat up on poor Bunny now.
no, it's this one movie that that she has vehemently has defended. Is the name of the movie, and I blame you, George, for finding this movie. Ceremony, Resurrection of Evil. Okay, that is one of the worst movies. Well, that is the worst movie I've ever seen, and I've only saw 9 minutes and 29 seconds of it. That's the absolute worst.
It is a bad, yeah. I mean,
And
it
the
is
second-
a bad movie, but
So the second one is called Thanksgiving, and that one is slightly better, not much, but it's slightly better. But to give you everybody a concept of everything, it's I would rather watch Hobbs and Shaw every day than either one of those two movies. All right, Taz says she's in the waiting room, so
I will fix that right now. Oh, so is
probably so is Bunny.
yes. This could be interesting. Welcome.
you are muted.
You're a
dear.
muted Bunny.
You're a muted, Bunny.
Probably getting herself set up. Taz, good morning and
Welcome.
hello.
Good
This
morning.
is our first chance to talk to each other, I think.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good. Lovely.
Good morning.
And good morning, Bunny, as well.
Good morning, Bunny.
I just have to say, Angry, the fact that you are disparaging such a masterpiece in
Masterpiece of
theatrical
shit.
presentation is really offensive, okay?
It's a masterpiece of shit.
The fact that you're still calling it a masterpiece and you're now sober,
Like, right? I have to question some decisions now.
it needs to be studied. Absolutely no.
Needs to be studied.
It was
Needs to be put under a microscope on
It
a
does, man. For
on a
real.
slide and
It is
and
Truthful Thursday.
It
Okay.
It
is
is Truthful
indeed.
Thursday, yes.
Not delusional dilemmas. Okay. We
And the
have
truth
to come to terms.
is, if you appreciate
Bunny, I'm
the
gonna
effort
hold
put
your
into
hand with my
shoestring
dog's
budget
paw.
movies,
I've seen Rob Zombie films. Bunny, I'm gonna hold
hey,
your
I
hand.
have too. People
with
love
my
the Blair
dog's
Witch
paw.
Project. That was absolute
It's a
trash.
horrible
It was
movie.
trash.
You cannot make it into
Yeah.
You have to give
No.
props to anybody who's willing to make the devil look like a can of exploded spam. I'm sorry.
I'm Christian. They do it every Sunday.
it's kind of like that line, from Christine. You can't polish a turd.
Right?
What a turd!
Wow.
Listen, it has a young Lilith Frazier in it. What more could you possibly ask for?
It never to be released?
A plot.
It could have.
Some.
For it never to have been released?
Anyway, good.
Some good
You
cinematography.
willingly signed into this abuse. That's amazing.
Bunny.
And here's the thing. What?
Bunny,
I do it 3 days a week.
You know what? You are to this film what Caroline Leavitt is to Trump. Let it go. Be like Elsa. Let it go. Let it go.
Listen, I have a certain affinity for any movie that was released directly to Blockbuster home video because
Oh my.
I worked at Blockbuster Music.
Okay. Then you need to go to the
So-
black side of the Blockbuster. Okay, because they're bad, but they're not this bad. Okay, you need to find out who became black famous, and you will appreciate those films a whole lot better. Okay, because
Listen, if Gil can sit there, no.
Ceremony
Sit there
is
and
the
say
birth turducken
that
from
the Fantastic Four
Thanksgiving
birth
3
scene
years
was
ago.
okay, then my movie is okay. If you can sit there
Oh,
and attest
no,
that the birth scene in
no. Look
Fantastic
here.
Four
Let me put it to you like
was
this.
good,
I
And
could
you know
watch.
what? You don't even
So
get
no,
to
I
argue
will.
about the
I have no
village.
problem in watching that bird scene in its full 5-minute glory, as opposed to the 9 minute and 29 seconds that I was
That's the
tortured.
problem. You have no taste.
No, let me explain something to you. I would build a time machine, go back in time, and go into the birthing room with Mama Trump and watch Trump be born before I would watch Ceremony again.
You did
Yes.
not give it a chance. You have to let it get to 39 minutes.
39 minutes.
So
Okay, you know
39
what?
minutes.
You
That's
know
what
what?
it is.
I'm
It's almost.
I'm
It's
gonna
all, the
set a
movie's
timer.
over by then.
Sounds like
After
Doctor Who.
this,
Let's kill
after
Hitler.
this show, I'm gonna set a timer. I'm gonna give it 39 minutes. If I walk away and my eyes are twitching, the next GCPR event is going to be me and Bunny putting wrestling because I'm gonna be sick and I'm gonna be done with this shit. 39.
So,
I'm gonna
wait,
give you 39
Gambit?
minutes.
So Gambit.
39 minutes.
Oh, here's the thing.
I would say Gambit
You-
has a right
Listen, this is
to
what
39
you do,
minutes.
Jazz.
So Gambit has a right. That
Skip
is
all of
38
the-
minutes
'cause
too
listen,
long.
they take a long time to get to the point, okay? They let that crusty white woman float around in that circle for a hot minute. I'm not kidding you. But as soon as that candle goes out, advance it to where actually, you know what? You might want to like pause right where you see Lilith Frazier like going crazy. There's like
Bunny,
three
you sound
different
like you're
scenes where she goes
describing a
crazy.
1972 Wish.com porn. Okay, that's what you sound
Yeah.
like you're describing.
Wish?
Bunny,
Are
I-
you kidding me, Timu?
Funny, there's a
Go.
question in the YouTube chat from Infernal that said, what does qualify for you as a bad movie?
What qualifies for me as a bad movie? Okay. That is
Certainly not the
difficult to
village.
answer.
It'd be
There are
interesting to know what the
complexities
standard is.
and
So look, certainly
nuances.
not the
There are
village, and
complexities
certainly
and
not the
nuances.
happening.
You can have a bad movie that is great. Okay? You can have a great movie that's bad. Fantastic Four. You have to vary
Which Fantastic
these
Four?
things. The one that
Oh,
just
she's talking
came
about
out,
the
that
newest one.
horrible birth scene
She's talking about
where
the
that
newest
kid
one.
should have come out like a Super Bowl. He should have come out like Thor's hammer flying to him. Listen.
I didn't
okay?
see it yet, but I might stream
It's
it.
wretched. It's ridiculous. They could have cut that scene is 5 minutes long. They
Well,
could
I
have cut
can
it
put it
down
like this.
by
That is-
4 minutes and
Oh,
45
no,
seconds.
I'll tell you,
You
fantastic-
want me to survive 39 minutes.
I know, that's
minutes
not
what
of
I'm
a
saying.
That's not
real
Hey,
what I'm
movie.
saying.
wait.
Listen,
Let me
but you're saying
hold
that
up.
I
Wait.
don't
Let me
listen.
say
Hold
let me
on,
say it like
hold
this.
on.
Let me say it
Hold on.
like this. Hold on. With the exception of the Roger Corman Fantastic Four, every Fantastic Four movie is better than Ceremony. And that includes the 2015 one with Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm.
As
Okay?
Johnny Storm.
See, your
Yeah.
problem is you're trying to compare a movie like The Ceremony,
Overly PC.
to something that was in theaters. It was a blockbuster. It had a big budget. Okay, these people did this on a shoestring budget. I guarantee you that desert they were filming in wasn't in the Middle East.
So look, I could do
it
better.
Was in
So
Calcutta.
Bunny,
okay?
Bunny,
It was in Chico.
Bunny.
See, this is why I said
Bunny,
you
I
need
could
to
make
go to
a-
the black side because some of our best movies were on a $2.95 budget. Okay,
So
For
I
the
could make-
people
so
of
look,
No
I could
Limit
do-
Soldiers. Okay, Master P gave us masterpieces for $25.99 in production.
That is true.
okay?
That is true.
One of our favorite movies is Two Can Play That Game with Vivica A. Fox. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that budget was 2 buckets of Popeye's chicken and a gallon of sweet tea, and it still went down in history. They're just horrible movie. It's a horrible
listen.
movie. Okay, horrible writing, horrible directing, horrible producing, horrible
horrible.
everything. It is
Like-
like a molded 10-piece chicken nugget from 1892. Let it go, Bunny.
Say, Bunny,
please,
Bunny.
please be like Elsa and let it go.
So, Bunny, we could, any one of us can make a better movie in our backyard with an iPhone.
Hey,
And
wait a minute.
We're making
and
one right now.
Wait a
So
damn
listen,
minute.
and that's
People
coming- and
are
that's coming
making movies with iPhones, sir.
That's
that's
true.
coming from somebody with an Android. Okay.
Nah. Somebody
I
who's
love you.
very
That explains
anti-Apple.
why I
have
can't say
made-
anything because I have
Did
both
Very
you
anti-Apple.
miss?
Android
Did
and
you miss
Apple.
the whole Joe fiasco? That was movie magic from my iPhone front-facing camera. Thank you very much.
Let's see if we can get onto something a little more depressing and topical and serious, if you wouldn't mind. Taz,
Okay, Candy Poo, I'm not going to crap on Android. I have both
Nope.
Android and Apple products, working in IT. Unlike my IT twin, Angry.
No, I do.
I don't discriminate too much. Wait Yeah.
So no, I'm just more vocal about it than she is. We both have the same discrimination. I'm just more vocal about it.
That's true. That is true. I try to be diplomatic about it. He's just like, no.
Said, nah. I've been diplomatic for too long about this goddamn shit.
He's like, nah, fam. They going down.
It's like,
You know
look,
what? I'm gonna find the worst movie on the planet to.
You
to
did.
force to
you
watch.
already
You know
did.
what? Okay, we are there. Listen, you have to go watch Cricket on Netflix. Go watch Training a Cricket.
No, unlike the men, I'm not doing it.
Mm-mm.
Okay, you fooled me once. That was it.
Mm-mm.
Fool me once.
No.
Play with me.
I don't. We not doing. This ain't baseball.
We were
This ain't
discussing Truthful
Texas.
Thursday politics.
Ooh,
Can
I'm
we
not
get on to
doing
something
it.
depressing and slightly angering?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
Y'all trashing my movie.
real quick for for Truthful Thursday. I don't know if you all are aware, but Pete Hegseth thought that he was going to find a friend in AI to put out to the masses that he did not commit war crimes. AI said, survey says, get somebody else to do it. You're a war criminal, sir. The AI decided to keep it real with Whiskey Leaks Hegseth.
AI said, nah. AI said, nah,
Okay.
son.
We are now, Pete Hague, Seth, because he belongs in the
The
Hague
Hague.
when this is over.
Mm.
I was going to ask you, Taz, we seized a Venezuelan tanker last night that was seized in the name of the people of the United States using the Coast Guard and the United States Navy. Your thoughts?
Well, actually, the seizure happened during the Taz Effect yesterday because we broke the news there. I think people were so focused on the narco terrorism narrative that Trump was putting out. And like I said in the comments earlier, Trump is prolific at marketing and carrying a narrative, just like how he carried the narrative of his origin story, which is a lie. But we have turned Venezuela into an oil trafficker. Actually, one of their biggest customers right now is China. They're skimming off the top. There is a bit of unsubstantiated scuttlebutt floating around that Amazon is skimming off the top from Venezuela as well when it comes to oil. That's what Trump's issue is. Trump wants to be that oil czar president because he believes that will give him a leg up over Barack. And I don't think we talk about it enough how much he wants to be the presidential child of Nixon and Reagan. He does
This is
not
a
like.
Republican Party that wouldn't even allow Reagan or Nixon to be part of it at this point.
Yeah, and here's the thing: what a lot of people, especially the MAGA faction,
They're liberals
of the
compared
GOP,
to where they are
they're-
now.
Yeah, they're forgetting that Reagan wasn't as staunch of a Republican as they want to give him credit for. They love him now in death, but not so much at the time because Reagan was a part of the Reagan coalition faction of the GOP. He was able to pull away Democratic voters and politicians and combine them with Republican voters and politicians and start a wave. And Trump wants to erase that legacy of Democratic voters not only helping Reagan get elected in landslides, because he did garner 60% both times, but the Reagan coalition faction helped propel Republican elections until 1996. But he wants to take that, I'm the military oil czar president, and I want this to be my legacy, and I want it to be done quickly. Trump doesn't know how to negotiate. Trump doesn't know how to have patience. Trump wants to go in and strong arm.
Is it that,
doing
or are
things
we
like
looking
that.
at, or are we looking at the next oil war? We know that the oil companies, we talked a little bit about it before you came on earlier in the show. I think you were listening, and if I'm repeating, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but the oil companies do seem to think that it's some mistake by God that he put our oil under their soil. So are we
Well-
looking at a ramp up toward war just to take 17% of the world's oil reserves for
We're
ExxonMobil
looking at
and
war, not just for the oil conglomerates, because It's a combination of Trump's ego, continued colonialism.
But his ego was the peace president.
His ego was lying about being the peace president. It's partially colonialism, partially the seizing of oil, and partially his ego, because we have to rewind the clock a little bit. Trump has had an issue with Maduro since his first administration. And I say ego because let's not forget when Trump tried to, well, he did force the CIA to go in to try to surveil Maduro. And from the time they hit the ground, Maduro knew that they were there. And we even had CIA operatives that flipped and were like, hey, Maduro, we don't like Trump either. You want to know what he's up to? We'll tell you. Just, hey, protect us. And Maduro was like, bet, tell me what you want. And Trump is mad. Trump, everybody else on the planet has more respect than what Trump wants. Trump is stuck in the 80s, and Trump is stuck believing that he's Fredo from the Godfather series because he never finished the series. He thinks that he's a mob boss and how he's going to submit things. Now, does big oil, since we want to make everything, big pharma, big oil, big everything, do they want that oil? Do they want control over it? Yes, because there's really not many more places that we can drill here in the U.S. And the fact that we have companies based in the United States that feel entitled to other people's lands, we have to reconcile with the fact that that's colonialism. That's us still being rooted in racism and wanting to explore other lands to take what we feel is valuable and not spread the wealth amongst all within the borders of the United States, but spread it amongst who the founding ancestry believes look American.
I think we also have to pay attention to the fact that we are seeing very close ties with people who are in those, like the Saudi areas, the United Arab Emirates, those areas, the Middle East. We're seeing a lot of connection between those two. And you have to pay attention to that in this situation because we used to get and still do probably get a considerable amount of our crude from them. It comes from many different places.
Yeah, but the connections that we have with the Saudi Arabia now are not the connections we had previously. We're keeping up and forming new relations with Saudi Arabia and everything over in that area because of new economic structures. Now, Trump slipped up a couple of months ago and stated why he wants to emulate the economy that the Crown Prince, Mr. MBS himself, has put into place. And it has more to do with the heads of state being able to be more profitable publicly. We're moving away from the oil conglomerate in the Middle East, and we're moving into cryptocurrency and stealing from the people in plain sight. We're moving towards putting big flashy things in bigger cities to make it seem as if we're moving a little bit towards socialism, but not so close to it, and making it seem like we care a little bit about the people, but we're not. And we're also aligning more with specifically Saudi Arabia because they are implementing a new form of chattel slavery that's a little bit more digestible for 2025. They're pulling people in internationally under the guise that they're doing it willingly, putting them into perpetual contracts that are impossible to get out of with different government agencies and companies that have government contracts where these people can never leave. They can never stop working. That's what we're doing. We're not having a oil connection with a lot of these places that we used to. We're strengthening and expanding for whole new levels of tyranny.
Well, and that was kind of my point is we're watching as Trump, we know Trump and his personality to be one where he tends to mirror the powerful people that he admires, the people who have an iron grip and who run things, with a very defined, tyranny. And I think that part of this, I think we give Trump too much credit in strategic thinking. I think what this really comes down to is he has tried since his first term to get Maduro to do what he wants. so that he can tap that resource. And repeatedly, Maduro has said no. And he sees these other people and he's starting to associate with some of these other people and sees how they're running things. And I think that part of what we're seeing on Venezuela is him thinking, why do I have to ask? We are the strongest military force in the nation. And foolishly, he's thinking that everybody will just follow along and fall in line. And he can just go take what he wants the same way these people that he idolizes does. I don't think there's any really strategic thing. Yeah, I think it is. I think you're right. I think it is very ego driven. He's a little butthurt.
He doesn't know how to be strategic, but, and you're right, we do give him more credit. I say this on a daily basis. People give Trump way too much credit. But here's the thing. He doesn't believe the United States is the strongest. He believes he is the strongest. And
Right.
we have to be honest.
Well, but in
he's not
consequence,
looking
he
up
is
to
the
people.
United States. That's what
He's
he
not.
thinks. He
He's
is
not
the
looking
United
up to
States.
people. He believes that these people are his equal until he's in the room with them. I think we need to remember what it was like to be in middle school, not even in high school, where there was that one kid. He may have been the captain of the football team. He may have been the captain of the basketball team, but he didn't have a personality. But everybody had a tinge of fear in him. But when somebody that kid respected or wanted to be more like, you would see him kind of cower a little bit. This is why you see Trump posture until he's next to Zelensky. This is why you see him posture until Putin comes around. This is why you saw him clamoring to be defensive of MBS. And even MBS had to correct him when Trump was like, oh yeah, they'll be investing this amount of money and they'll be giving us. And MBS was like, whoa, you got too much dip on your chip. I didn't tell you I was giving you any of that. I didn't say that I was giving you that. I said I would think about it. Maybe I'll give such and such over there this money, but I didn't say I was giving it to you. Trump is that kid that wants to be liked. We cannot forget that his father was a decent borough developer. Trump wanted to get into certain socialite circles. Trump is still trying to get into those circles. Trump has issues with women and people in power because Trump wouldn't be Trump if it wasn't for the women in his family. The men in his family are horrific when it comes to business. And Trump should have went into the marketing department and went there. Without his grandmother, they would have never started turning a profit. Without Ivana Trump, they would not have been able to sustain profitability. Without Ivanka Trump, they wouldn't have made it where they are now, because Trump is the reason why their business is currently under basically a conservatorship in the state of New York, and they've had to create new shell companies in order to do business in Greenland, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, and word on the curb is now in Iraq.
And don't
He's a
forget his
bumbling
newest
idiot.
edition. Don't forget his newest edition that the Treasury has a hold of right now. But if you go back and read the bill, it's going to be assigned to a private manager, a private fund manager. And that private fund manager is going to be a Trump affiliate.
The private fund manager is Barron Trump's shell company. That's why Barron dropped out of college.
Yeah, they just
They're saying that
created
he
everything.
transferred to a new campus, but nobody's seen
He's
him
already-
on campus. And he's
19-year-old
finally
kid
moved
is
into the White
already
House.
worth almost $1 billion.
Yeah, and he's
Right.
already in some financial legal woes as well.
Taz, we mentioned earlier on in the program that we tend to for Trump, for all of Trump's foibles, strengths and weaknesses, we tend to sometimes forget that the people who hold the office are in fact human beings.
Hmm.
With all of they bring to the office a life's worth of experiences, both good and bad, but also traumas, good and bad. Trump is a man who was, by all accounts, a mistake child whose mother paid almost no attention to him whatsoever.
Well, she did spend the first few months of his life institutionalized because of her postpartum depression.
And she also went back to, left him in military school, went back to Scotland countless times rather than spend any time with him. The fact that he is in the most powerful office and the most paid attention to office on the planet, and yet still somehow craves attention. I mean, do we as an American people sometimes, if not all the time, forget that these are human beings in these offices?
We do. And we tend to focus on denigrating women and tossing around the phrase, daddy issues, and we forget that mother issues are there. We have left behind the conversation of nature versus nurture. We tend to forget that office holders are human, just like office holders forget that we are human. We have been conditioned, more so indoctrinated, into whittling everyone down to sets of statistics. And when we do that, we further distance ourselves from humanity. We can't help the people that we need to help us. I am not a fan of Trump, but I do realize, although I did everything I could to campaign against him, I did not vote for him, he still has too much control over my livelihood and my life that now I do have to care about his dilapidated cranial cavity at this moment. I have to worry about the moral ground that is completely rickety under his feet. I now have to be concerned about his physical and mental health because one extremely bad day for him could be the end of days for me. And as much as we don't like him, we have to acknowledge not just that he's starving for attention and affection and he wasn't able to properly develop into an emotionally regulated intellectual individual who should be able to sit in the West Wing and govern, but we have to look at those that are on that trajectory that have not yet made it into politics, that will believe that their only way of being noticeable, to having a personality, to have people want to be around them, may be being the next Trump. And they're going to be even more diabolical. This is one of those times in history that we have to finally set fire to the playbook that we keep tossing around the globe and take notes from good old Deutschland into how they have tried diligently not to have a resurgence of the failed artist who convinced too many people that the standard of an Aryan nation was not his reflection. Because right now, Trump is setting a precedent as to who is acceptable, and Trump does not meet those qualifications.
Well, I think the other issue that we face, going back to Trump's mental issues, is he is in a position where he, across the globe, is one of the most watched people. Trump's issue with that is that it's not the attention he wants. You have to remember to view Trump a little bit like I view my 9-year-old with, emotional maturity deficits, right? Little kids, he's still a little kid. Little kids crave attention. And any parent will tell you if they can't get the attention they want, the good job, buddy, and all of that stuff, then they're going to do stuff that is bad because any attention is attention. Trump continues with this insatiable thirst for attention because he's not getting the attention he's wanting. He's not getting all of the news stations to say, "Oh my gosh, what a glorious person." He's not getting all of the pundits and Congress and the American people to be like, "Oh my God, what a magnificent human being." And so as a result, that leads him to do things that he thinks are going to garner him that attention because he has built a base, be it very small but very loud, of people who are willing to hold him up no matter what he does. He found his mark in the subset of society that has gone about their business angry at things that didn't impact their life, but they felt they did. I was raised in an extremely racist home. My family lineage is extremely racist, and so I had a front row seat to how it is that these people get indoctrinated and it's ingrained in their very being. And Trump is no different, because the reality is, had Trump not gotten rich, he would have never gotten somebody like Ivanka. Had Trump not gotten rich, he wouldn't have been able to associate with the women that he wanted to, the women who so closely resembled his mother. Had Trump's path not included multiple bailouts from his dad, had his parents just said, look, you're on your own, you have to figure it out, he would have never attained the stature that he has now. And Taz is absolutely right that it is heavily dependent on his mother, because his dad was just one of those go in, get the job done, and move on to the next one. There was no overwhelming need to increase profitability. It was make it work and make enough to pay and then move on, right?
Well,
It
not only
was
that, we have to remember that Trump learned how to be a slumlord from his father.
Yep.
Trump's father
did.
was a slumlord
He
even
did.
to his own family.
And redlining as well.
Right. And Trump's father was an OG colonialist. And let me explain what I mean. Let us go back to the end of chattel slavery. Two things happened. Dog adoption increased. Births of white babies started going into the double digits, because that's where they started getting their workforce from. Trump's father, Fred Sr., wanted a workforce that he didn't have to pay full wages to. The only way he could do that was by producing boys. The girls were to be in the house, and the girls he was going to use as leverage to get more workers. He was willing to use his daughters to get more men to come into the family, even though he learned everything that he needed to know about real estate development, contract negotiations from his mother. But the misogyny deep in him, mixed with that prosperity preacher that he wanted to put into his spirit 2 to 3 business days a year, is what caused that. Trump's mother was not a strong individual. Trump has never sought to replicate his mother. He sought to pretend to be close to and respected by his father, because his father only had respect for one child, and that was Fred Jr. This is why Trump did not want a junior. He did not want a junior, because he felt that he should have been the Fred Jr., even though that was not the order of operations for when he was born. 2, Trump's mother famously let her disappointment and disdain for Trump be known to Ivana, because she said, did I raise a monster? And Ivana had to remind her, you didn't raise anything, you barely housed him.
So how much then, I'm kind of bringing in a new topic at the same time, trying to tie it to what we're already talking about. How much do you think Project 2025 was designed to govern, quote unquote, govern, despite Trump?
It wasn't despite Trump. Project 2025 is just the latest Heritage Foundation mandate. They put out mandates every 4 years since the OG Reagan administration. They have been successful in having members of the Heritage Foundation in every single administration since Reagan. Heritage Foundation is not solely GOP. Okay, they say that they're a conservative, not Republican, conservative think tank, and they are about their members profiting. So let's keep
Part of the
that in
Koch
mind.
network.
Yeah, let's keep that in mind, because Bill Clinton himself praises to this day the parts of the mandate for his terms as his greatest accomplishments. The Heritage Foundation does realize how easy it is for them to be a multitude of Svengalis when it comes to Trump. I've said this since the first Trump administration, and more so in this one, that there is a multitude of Svengalis with their hands up Trump's booty hole, controlling him. They are doing what they want to do to get what they need. This is why they waited to the last possible moment to tell him about Project 2025. This is why when they tell him certain things, they make it seem as if he came up with the idea, where all of us know we've been reading about this for months in their latest mandate. And most importantly, this is why he has no hand in actually writing these executive orders, which they are utilizing to push through portions of their mandate. But the problem is the Heritage Foundation has boy bossed and girl bossed way too close to the sun, that they've put in individuals that don't know the order of operations for government. An executive order is not legislation. And executive orders with no plan of actions behind it has things stalemated and tied up in the courts right now. So they've shot themselves in the proverbial foot. So now they're trying to go around it by using their pardon czar to get certain things done, by using Pam Bondi to the point where this woman has aged 365 dog years in 11 months trying to get things pushed through or shushed out. Bongino and Kasha Patel are fighting with Bondi over things that they don't want done, and everything is in disarray. They
Both of
had
which are
a
rumored to be
decent
leaving.
plan. Yeah, they had a decent plan, but because nobody had the forethought for execution, we got the leopard feast going on right now.
And now you have to pay attention because it's very poignant in their method, and it needs to be paid attention to, that they do make sure to denote themselves as conservatives and not give a specific party line. Pay attention to your Democratic conservatives that are going to start trying to come into office and positions of power, because the one thing that is ultimately true about the Heritage Foundation is they have a plan, and they wish to execute that plan by any means necessary. They could care less if it's going to be with a Republican representative or a Democratic representative. They're also opportunists, which means they're paying attention to the ebb and flow of the American people. And if they think that a Democratic conservative is going to better benefit them, and be easier controlled to execute their plan, then they're going to go that way too.
But see,
Like,
here's the thing.
there's
They're
nowhere
not
that's
paying
safe.
attention to the ebb and flow. They're not. Let's go back to the origins of the Heritage Foundation. They say that they're conservative on paper. They're really not. And the only person that they're trying to control is Trump. Working with other administrations, it wasn't about control. It was, hey, here's this portion of the mandate that will give you a great legacy. Can you put X, Y, and Z in your administration? Because this is how they do it. They get a collection of people in their think tank. They put together these mandates. They get whoever they think is the cream of the crop for that graduation year out of the Heritage Foundation into the administration. Those people generally get put into administrative roles that can go through multiple presidential administrations. When they leave those administrations, they either start their own lobbying firms or they join the biggest of the biggest lobbying firms, and then they have long-term wealth. That is their end goal. It's not really controlling society. It's not really controlling politicians.
No, it's not about
It is
controlling
for-
society.
It's for
It's-
them. The Heritage Foundation was created and it is sustained. It is in their bylaws for the financial stability and gain of their members. Right now, they're controlling Trump because it's the easiest way. They now have an opportunity to not just infiltrate a current presidential administration, they can infiltrate every aspect of the federal government. They can also infiltrate multiple career fields and industries. And now they have a gateway to now go international, because in previous administrations, they weren't allowed to really hobnob with international diplomats. With Trump, they can manipulate them. They're now sitting at the table with Don Jr. and MBS. They're now taking lunches with Zelensky. They're now, talking to military heads from other countries. This is Christmas for the Heritage Foundation right now. It is. And we also have to change our verbiage, because far too often when we say conservative, we give conservative over to the grand old party. Conservatism is an ideology. It is not a political party. And even in the GOP, it has always been a conglomerate of factions that tend to eat each other alive for sport when they get bored.
I wanted to get into a different topic, if I could, please. From the Associated Press, written by Paul Wiseman. Tariffs have cost the U.S. households $1,200 each since Trump returned to the White House, Democrats say. Dateline Washington. Sweeping taxes on imports have cost average American household nearly $1,200 since Trump returned to the White House this year, according to calculations by Democrats on Congress's Joint Economic Committee. Using Treasury Department numbers on revenues from tariffs and Goldman Sachs estimates on who ends up paying for them, the Democrats' report Thursday found that American consumers share the bill that came to nearly $159 billion, or $1,198 per household from February through November. This report shows that Trump's tariffs have done nothing but drive prices higher for families, said Senator Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire, the top Democrat on the Economic Committee. At a time when both parties should be working to lower costs, the president's tax on American families is simply making things more expensive. In his second term, Trump has reversed decades of U.S. policy that favored free trade. He imposed double-digit tariffs on almost every country on earth. According to Yale University's Budget Lab, the average U.S. tariff has shot up from 2.4% at the beginning of the year to 16.8%, the highest since 1935. Combined with the fact that polling that we talked about earlier shows that Trump's handling of the economy has dipped to the lowest point in either term. What do these numbers say to you? What do they mean to you? What should they say to the American people as we move into this midterm election cycle?
We're headed towards plausibly another depression. And
so are we in
with the shrinking
Are we in the
economy,
summer of 1929 quite yet, or
we're not
maybe
quite
late?
there. We're
maybe late 28.
we're a few months from that, but with
Yeah.
an economy that's shrinking, an idiot trying to force people to financially cover for him, which will not fix anything, it will increase it. I will say this, and when I say we, I'm not talking about the country as a whole headed towards a depression. Let me tell you what I mean.
The bottom 99%.
Right. And on top of that, there will be certain people who are going to lose their shit. They're going to lose it because they don't know how to survive. They know how to pretend to thrive. But also, hand in hand with a depression, historically speaking, we're going to go through another enlightenment period. Because the decrease in intellect right now, there's ebbs and flows. We are going to have a duality that is going to make the historic talking points so blaringly obvious to people, but it's still not going to change anything. We're still not going to fight for equity, and we're still not going to fix this. We are going to Groundhog Day this at least 3 more times. We are going to have at least 2 to 3 more depressions and 2 to 3 more enlightenment periods before the human society of the United States will get it together. Because there will people who right now are looking at this meritocracy of an administration dismantle their financial security to now prevent them from being able to retire and preventing people from putting into our economy, which is going to further shrink it, on top of these tariffs, which is dismantling our economy. And we're still not going to learn. We're not going to learn. We're going to have descendants of Euro-Americans selling their children again. We're going to have a resurgence of not just hate groups, but specifically the Triple K, going after melanated individuals who are not going to fall apart and are going to lean on a sense of community that Euro-Americans do not understand. And it is going to be chaos. It is going to be worse than the Wild West at its height. But learning won't take place.
History shows that the United States goes through these 80-ish year cycles of economic calamity, war, progressive enlightenment, clawback by the wealthy against that progressive enlightenment, economic calamity, war, progressive enlightenment, and that this cycle continues. It starts from the revolution. There was an economic calamity right before the American Revolution. There was a depression. takes us through the Civil War to 1929, to the Second World War, and now we see ourselves seemingly preparing for war in Venezuela to try to tie some of the things together that we've been talking about this morning. We see ourselves preparing for war in Venezuela, which I would wonder, by the way, what that would mean for China and Taiwan. I think it would give them a license when we're busy in Venezuela. I think it would give China a license to take Taiwan, and we would do nothing about it, but that's a different topic for a different day. But we see we're on the verge, I think, on the verge of this economic calamity, war, and what I can only pray would be a progressive enlightenment. Is that a cycle that either of you, whoever wants to take the question, Angry George, everybody, whoever wants to take the question, do you see that same historical cycle playing itself out yet again? Or do you think I'm off base?
No, I think you're fairly accurate there. I think maybe this one is a little bit different than others because, in the past, whenever these things were happening, it was more a measure of or a certain measure of incompetence. Um, you know, Unfortunately this time, over the past few decades, we have watched as repeatedly we've voted into office the least of the two evils, right? Like everybody says, well, I picked the best one out of the two worst, right? And we have finally managed to get ourselves down to where we are at the bottom of the barrel. So as we go through this inevitable cycle yet again, we are being led by somebody who lacks any and all capacity and understanding of how to navigate this situation like we've had in the past.
Taz, your thoughts?
Um, I'm not going to pull any punches. The United States enjoys being racist. That's why we keep coming back here. The United States is going to continue to follow the leadership of the most egregious, the most racist, the most problematic individuals. Um, Racism has a multitude of targets. Now, its intended targets, it doesn't always hit, but the ricochets of racism never miss. And those ricochets we're even seeing right now. We're seeing white people be affected by immigration right now. We're seeing white people lose benefits. The same white people who wanted to stand behind this and vote for it. Every time we turn around and we are at a precipice such as this, it is because we wanted to revert back to whiteness as a standard. And for those that think that I'm reaching or I'm fear mongering, I want you to take a look at what's happening right now to Jasmine Crockett. The same talking points they put on Kamala Harris, they are now putting on Jasmine Crockett just because she's black. Just because she's a black woman. Because, and I want y'all to hear me and I want you to hear me well and I want you to reconcile with this in your spirit. When you see specifically black women, you don't mind for us to speak up as long as we're speaking up in advocacy and defense of you. You don't mind for us to be boisterous and stand on the front lines as long as we're willing to be a shield for you. You don't want our leadership because you want to cosplay who you think we are for you to be the leaders. And when you become those leaders, you don't listen. You let the teachings of your ancestry flow through you, and we get right back to this point. This is why the South is still trying to rise again. This is why the Pacific Northwest is still trying to hide its true history and rewrite it at the same time instead of dealing with it head on and changing it moving forward. We can't do that with eyes wide shut. We have to stop pretending as if we are one kumbaya 1992 Coca-Cola commercial talking about we'd like to see a world of hope. No, we don't. Because if we wanted better, we would already be better. We wouldn't keep going back and being stuck in this god-awful Groundhog Day with no punchlines.
The Confederacy never did manage to get troops into Washington, D.C. until this administration.
Very good point.
And I consistently on my program refer to it as the Confederacy because they never stopped fighting. The fighting may have gone underground, and in many cases, it didn't go underground. The major
Because they were. I'm
the
sorry, go
major Victorian battles may have stopped. Victorian style battles may have stopped, but the war didn't stop. And I was very taken aback when I heard. I wish I could claim original thought on that. I can't. When I heard Tom Hartman mention that the Confederacy tried for 160 years to get troops into Washington, D.C. until Trump ushered them in.
Hmm. And we also have to move away. If we want change and we want to stop coming to this point and we want to finally be who we market ourselves to be, the best, the greatest, this melting pot. Now, I look at the United States as a stew. Everybody can keep its components and we just make each other better and more tasteful, okay? But in order to do that, we have to stop this political sporting bullshit. And by that, I mean everything isn't whittled down to, oh, well, they must be a Democrat, they must be a Republican. Stop. Because if I hear one more person incorrectly attribute someone to a political party or say that the founders of this were aligned with this political party, I promise you I'm going to start flipping everything, including y'all, over. I am tired of it. Everything is not based upon politics. There are just horrible people that will hide in plain sight wherever they believe that they can fit, wherever they can. And if we keep focusing on Democrat and Republican, we're just going to keep ending up in the same cesspool.
Because at the end of the day, it's good versus bad. It's humanity versus inhumane. We are in a position in this country where we are reaching an epicenter because the days of populaces, marginalized groups backing down because of the fear of what will happen to them, at the hands of the white man has gone away slowly but surely as we have integrated in our communities
No, it
with,
hasn't. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't.
what groups would you say are backing down right now?
No, it hasn't. There are a lot of groups that are backing down, that are still in the shadows, that are completely terrified. The only ones that are claiming publicly to be terrified because they have the leverage, aka the privilege.
Oh, okay. No,
to
I think
publicly
you misunderstand
pretend-
me.
No. What I'm saying, the ones that say that and go, "Oh, we're not doing this," are those that contain the leverage and the privilege. There are a multitude of people who are terrified for good reason, and it has never stopped. There are organizations that you never heard about because they were stopped in silence before they got out.
I think
into
you
the world.
misunderstood me.
The fear in everything is still there. The silencing is still there.
Right. No, I think you misunderstood me. Whenever I said the groups backing down, if you look back at prior to the civil rights movement, right, we had a large group of people of color who would try to stand their ground. The militias would come in and they would back off and it would stay quiet for a few years and then it would move on. Now what we are seeing is far more protest activity in the streets. We're seeing more than we've had in the past few decades where people are saying
Sweetheart,
we're
I
not going
understand
to
what
be
you're saying.
silenced.
Those are white people. Those are white passing people. When was the last time you heard publicly from the NAACP?
Oh gosh,
When
it's been a
have
minute.
you heard a statement from Black Girl Magic? Did you even know that Black Girl Magic was an organization?
I did.
I know the NAACP has started
Right.
an advertising campaign, but
When have you seen the Urban League in the street?
the Urban League's been quiet for a long time.
We are getting pushed back. Here's the thing. Those with leverage, those with privilege, white-bodied individuals, you might get they might label you as canceled. They may wage an online campaign against you. They may start a rumor against you. What happens to us? We go in for a root canal and don't come out. We go and we may have a minor traffic violation and we're threatened for months or beaten to a pulp or put in a cage and forgotten about. The backing down and the fear is still there.
So
A
do
lot
you
of
believe
times what you see or surrounding yourself with a handful of people who don't care and will risk it all can skew what's going on. We're at a point where questions need to be asked and understanding needs to be received. We are not at a time where we are on equal standing. We are not at a time where fear has completely dissipated. We are not at a time where people are not being silenced and pushed back. We are not at a time where people are not retreating. People are retreating even more now.
Do you think that what we're seeing now in these movements is a result of greater attention being paid by news outlets and things like that, because it is the white people that are getting out there and standing? Do you think that this is another situation of selective publication, simply because it's not, because we've seen the protests
I
throughout
think
history,
it's a result
right?
of selective attention span.
Okay.
There are people only
what do you
paying
mean by that?
attention to certain things at certain times. There are people who are just now paying attention to activism, to news, and everything else, and they are making the rounds as if they are experts in it. There are people who align themselves with one or two people of color and utilize those partial points of view, because they're only partially paying attention to the points of view, to make assessments. We are to a point where we have a lot of what I call Thanos activists out here, where they are collecting Black, Indigenous, and people of color as if we are infinity stones. And they're sitting back going, no, I understand exactly what's going on, and I have this great assessment, when they don't. When they don't. It is no different than I tell people all the time, especially whether I'm teaching a class or I'm running a show, that there are times where I legitimately will ask people on the internet, like, hey, this is your culture. Could you explain this to me? How are you all dealing with this? Is this truly a part of your history? And having those conversations, because even though I know what part of the Venn diagram I am a part of, I know the weapons that are tossed at me every day, I'm also not a man. I'm also not indigenous to this land. I'm also not a member of the Asian diaspora. I know what part of the caste system affects me, but I don't know the other parts that don't affect me. So I do my best to educate myself on it, and that's what the rest of us need to do, because right now we're coming up with solutions that work for our individual comfort and not for the push towards equity, and they're not realistic. This is also why we're trapped in a Groundhog's Day. We have these people trying to come up with solutions that are based in ignorance and only for individual comfort. We are not individuals. We're individuals living in a society, but society is not an individual. Just because I like my pillow cool, you might like yours a little warm. I cannot sit here and lobby for a cool pillow law knowing that's not going to do anything for you. We have turned ourselves into political activist vegans.
I've always said I've said many times in the program that I think one of the greatest lies of the Reagan Revolution was that we are not a community, and that we're not a society. We're not one cohesive. We're not one nation even. We're a group of rugged individualists who happen to occupy the same land. It's an idea that Margaret Thatcher tried to put through the UK and wasn't completely successful in doing, and certainly wasn't as successful as the message seemed to be here. Let me just quickly say it's 10:05. We're into a third hour here on the Sound of Coffee. Group here filling in for Thomas, who's under the weather this morning. He should, we expect that he'll return tomorrow morning for a Flag on the Play Friday. Hopefully he's not rolling over in his bed wondering how badly Jeff has destroyed his own program. We've fought through a lot of technical problems this morning. YouTube has been YouTubing. TikTok seems to be okay. And Facebook, of course, completely crapped the bed on me. So we're not even anywhere there around there. I'm not sure what went wrong with that. Post-mortem on that at some point. We're very glad that you're with us. This is the Sound of Coffee. Jeff Kennedy here as your host for just this morning. Thank you all for being patient and for hanging in there with us while we fought through some of these technical problems. We appreciate it very much. We would be nothing without you. Great love to all of the coffee beans and to everybody who has tuned in, not just here in this country. A special hello to everybody who is tuning in literally around the world. We are live right now on the GCPR TikTok. We are live on Twitch, and we are live on the YouTube channel of GCPR. The audio of the program, of course, blasts around the globe via GCPR.live, GCPR.live, GCPR.live. You can listen to us anywhere around the globe through our website, GCPR.live, but it's also a great place to find out about the station. You can find out about all of our hosts, all of our programs, our schedule, and everything surrounding the GCPR livelihood, if you will. Thank you so much again for being here this morning. We'll take you to about 10:30, and then we're all wrapped up, and Thomas should return tomorrow for Flag on the Play Friday. My special thanks to the Angry IT Nerd for helping get us on the air and keep us on the air this morning. Like I said, YouTube has been YouTubing. He has been fighting with YouTube all morning. My partner from the very, very beginning of the Kennedy Effect, George. Taz is with us, Bunny is with us, and like I said, we'll take it to the bottom of the hour. Thank you, everybody, for being here again, and we appreciate it very, very much.
And do keep in mind that at 11 Eastern, 10 Central, you can continue on these GCPR airwaves with Keeping It Real. And then we will be joining you again at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central for the Taz Effect Daily News and a way you did not know you could use.
And I have a few podcasts too if anybody wants to
Go.
tune into them.
Tell everybody about it.
On Friday nights, you have me and Hot Mess Jess at 9 Eastern on my YouTube channel for Friday Fuckery. And then Saturday night, it's Angry and I on the YouTube channel and the Tiki Talk for Saturday Night Shite Show. And then on Monday, Angry and I take a break from politics and share stories of our misguided and questionable choices in our youth. On Stupid Choices, Make Great Stories, Monday night, all at 9 Eastern on the YouTube channel and the Tiki Talk.
The first in the world teen social media ban has begun in Australia. Conventional wisdom seems to be that this is going to be the first in a series rather than a failed experiment. I just want to put it open to the floor for Angry, George, Bunny, Taz, for everybody here. Your thoughts on this attempted, well, I shouldn't say attempted, it's been implemented. It's happening right now. If you're 16 years old or under in Australia, you have been banned from social media. You can no longer access social media, certain social media sites. Is this a good thing, a bad thing? Is it the first in a series, or is this going to be a failed experiment? Whoever wants to take it.
Failed. I think this is a wake-up call for parents. Parenting is a choice, and far too many people are simply housing children and not raising or parenting children. And I think this is the time for you to actually parent. Far too many people around the globe are constantly, don't tell my children this, don't do this, but then wanting to put the onus of raising and teaching children onto teachers, onto doctors, onto friends, and everything else, even the staff of restaurants, etc.
Family elders.
Yeah, so it's like, raise your kids. You made the choice to have them. Raise them. There is no reason for children not to know how to properly navigate the internet. As a parent who was raising children as the internet was becoming a thing and social media becoming a thing, we had conversations on what is real, what is not, what is dangerous, what is safe, how to interact. No different than teaching your children how to act in social settings, how to act at a party. Like, you have to be present. And because so many parents don't want to be present, and then when negative things happen to their children, they want to blame everyone else. I see why governments are like, you know what? Let's save ourselves the hassle and the liability. We just won't let your kids on here. And since y'all think that once you get to a certain age, all this information is just downloaded into the psyche, you know, when they're legally an adult, they can come back online and hopefully they get it together then.
You know, as somebody who
and know how to handle it.
just over the summer, I personally experienced this. You know, I had a Facebook page for my daughter so that she could keep up with family that was across the nation. It was a locked down page. I decided to be a justice warrior over the summer and uncover $1 million scam, and they found my daughter. They got into her DMs. She attempted to self delete. It was horrific. And people are like, oh, well, you weren't monitoring her. It had been less than 24 hours since I had looked at her phone. They did that all in a span of a few hours. And now that person, is the subject of a current ongoing criminal situation, right? Because they were able to find her. But it's a situation where we as parents think we've got the bases covered, right? Like, I would have never imagined that my 9-year-old on a completely locked down account where you can't search it, you can't do anything, you have to be invited in, right? And having those conversations with my child and saying, look, if it comes from somebody that you don't recognize, don't open it. You don't need to see it, and trying to give my daughter credit for being mature enough to say, I don't need to look at that, instead of the typical childhood curiousness of, well, I wonder who this is. Why are they contacting me? Because children do have a need to make as many connections as possible, right? And so I think as parents, even the greatest parents, even the parents who think that they're completely on top of it, are not on top of it. There's still things that are going on. And no matter how many cell phones are put out to implement safety measures, no matter how many times you have the federal government do sweeping legislation and investigations and pinpoint projects, you're still never going to get away from it. Now the real question I have is, how are they going to implement it? Because we have already seen time and time again, every single social media, at least here in the United States, every single social media has a minimum. Facebook, you have to be 13. I think TikTok, you have to be 13. They have these things in place, but you see parents who are, disregard those parameters, right? And they allow their children to do it. They backdate the birth date. They use, I have one friend who has her 5-year-old on Facebook, and her 5-year-old is using her mom's picture to get past any AI
the key word
catches.
you said is that the parents are allowing it.
Yeah,
the one thing about Australia is that they voted for this. This is what
Yes.
they wanted, so they have the backing. But Star in the TikTok chat said this. Media literacy starts with literacy. 44% of U.S. high school grads only comprehend at a 6th grade level. And there's the thing. Here's the thing. If we want change and we want to actually be able to protect children, truly protect children, one, stop believing that your child is the exception. I love my children down, okay? But I know that they're not the exception. I'm not going to sit here and go, well, my children would never. Yes, they would, okay? I don't put nothing past them. Yes, they absolutely would. And I remember me as a teenager. Absolutely would, okay? Just for the sake of being able to see if
just
I
to
could
do it. Just to say I did it.
Not even having malicious intent, but also we have to stop placating the Karens and Richards of society. Because look at what's going on at Oklahoma University. There are now 2 students, that have tanked the credibility of an entire university because they want to push through and let their mediocrity be the standard. And we're doing this. And it's nothing new. It's nothing new. We also have to stop blaming social media for everything, because we've all seen what happens with the star athletes. Just push them through. Just push them through. They don't. Do they really need to know this? Yes, they do. Because we can't cry 20 years later when they're getting reamed through the coals because they signed a piss poor contract.
Prime example is the No Child Left Behind.
Yeah, well,
when Reagan implemented No Child Left Behind,
no,
it doesn't matter if you pass.
That's not. Let's put a pin in this. Let's talk about this, because I'm really tired of this myth going forward. Every child has been left behind from the beginning. Bush put a slogan on it.
Yeah, but
let us remember that during the time of, first of all, it wasn't always mandatory for children to go to school. There were plenty of families that never sent their kids to school and sent them out into the workforce, number one. Number two, when it came down to desegregation, there were entire school systems that shut down rather than be inclusive. So them kids were already left behind. This is why we had grandfathering. and a whole lot of nepotism going on. Bush just put a slogan to it. These people been left behind. And even with Bush going, well, no child left behind, we had already had precedent of the football team and the basketball team and the lacrosse team being pushed through in middle school, high school, and even on the collegiate level. This is why we have so many professional athletes right now. Once they retire, they're destitute because they could not comprehend the contracts they were selling, that they were signing with managers, attorneys, accountants, and more.
Right, but what I'm
All the
saying,
places-
I think we're saying
All
the
the
same
places
thing.
they get sucked into invest.
Right.
saying
so
the same
they've
thing.
They've always been left behind.
Restaurants
We've
and
never
name on
cared
it, but
about kids.
the difference
only
is
kids
this.
that were not left behind. Truthfully and honestly, the only children that were not left behind when they were able to be educated, whether in secret or private, were melanated children because they utilized empty church houses. Because that's the origin of Sunday school. Sunday school wasn't teaching you about religion. Sunday school was just the one day that you could have a little house on the prairie, church house type of school where you could learn a conglomerate. White people been leaving white kids behind since they started creating white kids. They never
Right, but-
wanted you smart.
We're agreeing on this. We're saying the same thing, I think, in just different way. I know from my personal experience, you know, when that slogan came out, growing up in the South, you know, I grew up in Texas. So growing up in the South in my little bedroom community, you know, with parents who were well connected in the community, my father was invited to be part of the school board and to do all these things. We watched as policy within the school boards was implemented to ensure, and Taz is absolutely correct, that the non-melanated folks got pushed ahead, whereas it was normally, especially in the South, especially in those football states, in those sports heavy states, those 5A states, those 4A states, where those kids are looking at the potential for a professional career. They're bringing notoriety to that Friday Night Lights, right?
Money.
In those money,
It was money for the
in those
boosters.
situations,
They didn't even care if they made it to the pros.
right?
It
For
was
the
money
for
to
the sponsors
boosters.
and the boosters,
And the
you know. And
schools.
so in those situations, we saw policy implemented to make it so that these other kids who didn't have that sports potential to them weren't getting left behind, because the end result was, especially in my school district, is, you know, they were in the process of whitewashing a lot of the education, and these kids weren't passing, but they were just moving them on. When they weren't moving them on, you were having a situation where there was overcrowding in the schools. So they didn't really care about the education of the kids. They needed to move these kids through the process so that they could get out of high school and get out of their schools, because every kid didn't equate to dollars for them all the time, right? And so they're carrying the burden of those kids repeatedly in those same grades. I have one friend who stayed in junior high for 5 years, you know.
I've said on the program that I think, first off, let me just quickly say that it's no accident that one of the very first things that the Reagan Revolution, that Reagan went after when he took power, was the Department of Education, and went after education. Because, and it started with the ending of civics education, because if you don't know how your government works, it's very hard to complain about how it works, and it discourages voting. That said, and we all know the famous quote from Paul Weyrich, that people they want everybody to vote. We don't want everybody to vote because our leverage in election goes up as the electorate goes down. And I'm butchering that a little bit. That's a paraphrase. That said, it would seem to me, I've said on my program a lot, there's really only, and this will probably be the last thing that we get to talk about because it's already 10:20. And probably bad timing on my part, probably bad hosting on my part to do something lay this something this heavy out with about 10 minutes left in the show. But there's only 3 types of people left in this country. You create wealth through your labor. You create wealth through your consumerism, or die and get out of the way. And to be honest with you, and maybe this is a myopic view from my standpoint, because if I move the studio lights in here just the right way, I'm about as pale as I become translucent. But I think this is a thing that's gone across all racial lines now. 3 people in this country have as much wealth as the bottom 2/3. All the billionaires on earth have as much wealth as the bottom 2/3 of the planet. If money was equated, if we thought about that, not just in money, but in food, can you imagine 3 people in the country having as much food as the bottom 2/3 of the population? There'd be a second French Revolution in this. Let them eat cake, we'd take the cake. So, I mean, do you think with the severe billionaire controlled country that we find ourselves in, this second Gilded Age, this Supreme Court stamped billionaire controlled, I've called it flat fascism at this point. I don't think we're drifting toward it. I think we're already here. Is that an oversimplification that there's really only 3 types of people left in this country? Am I wrong? Or is it overly simplified?
I wouldn't say that's overly simplified, but I think that there's a fourth. I think there's a fourth category of person, and that is the forever workhorse. And I say that because we're controlled by billionaires because people are comfortable with certain billionaires controlling us. Because watching public discourse, they will make excuses for why white billionaires shouldn't or can't help anybody, but they expect non-white billionaires to give up their billions to help everyone. They still see these people as the forever workhorse. Garner that money to help the rest of us, but they don't equate it to all billionaires. And when you said that, if we turned it over and if it wasn't money and it was food, that people would revolt, but they wouldn't revolt on everybody. Jeff Bezos this summer rented the city of Venice.
Yes, he did.
There were some people that were upset, but there were more people going, well, it's his money. He can do whatever he wants, like defending. We are watching in real time Taylor Swift buy a lie to protect her documentary that drops tomorrow. We've watched her help contribute to the warming of the planet. We have watched her take credit for things she never did and never said. And we've watched people say why she can't feed the hungry, why she can't stand up to this administration, why she can't just not be racist. I hate to say it, but we are firmly dressed in racism, and once we root that out, we can start rooting out everything else that ails us. But we can't keep walking around with a big tumor of racism in the center of our body that's leaking out into the bloodstream and keep looking at the blood going, well, how can we fix the blood?
Well, and it's interesting that you bring up Bezos, especially in the context of discussing if one person had more food than everybody else, because
I only brought that up as a way to try to
sure
make it
no, I get
bring
yeah,
it bring it
metaphor.
down to earth,
But
maybe a little bit more, maybe make it a little more comprehensible. I think it's hard to comprehend that.
But it's accurate. Here's the thing, it's accurate because Bezos owns Whole Foods.
Right.
And one of the things I
Yes.
was doing as a side hustle was delivering for Whole Foods, delivering groceries for Whole Foods. And Bezos built part of that, convincing people that their, organic, non-GMO quinoa and, quinoa fed, grass fed cow meat that they're getting, their beef, is also a contribution to society, because everything that's about to go out of date or everything that gets returned from the grocery deliveries, it's all going to the food banks, it's all going to this, it's all going to that. And it doesn't. In fact, in most of the areas that Whole Foods is in, if it can go back on the shelf, it'll go back on the shelf. If it can't go back on the shelf, then it goes into the dumpster. And moreover, it goes into the dumpster destroyed so that
Yep.
nobody else can
Can
eat
take it.
Right. So it's a very real equation, especially whenever you're talking about Bezos, who spent billions of dollars billions of dollars. Because let's be realistic here. The sheer cost of renting Venice alone was horrendous. We see what they say the cost was, but it had to have been more than that at the end of the day. And he spent all of that money while his workers are literally throwing away food that could have been given to the 5 or 10 people that are standing outside their dumpster.
Nearly 40% of all the food manufactured in this country is wasted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And with the amount of
And
food insecurity we have in this country, that's astounding.
And I'm not, God knows I'm not smarter, better than anybody on this planet. In fact, probably quite the opposite. But I did think of that as a bit of an allegory, or what I hope is an allegory, to try to bring this a little more down to earth. I mean, Elon Musk is worth more than the gross domestic products of over 2/3 of the nations on earth.
And he's about to become the first trillionaire.
He's on his way.
He's worth more on paper, and he does everything that general society says should be unacceptable. He uses the government to subsidize his way of living. He uses
Sounds like socialism.
He uses government-funded properties for his residents. And what do I mean by that? For 2.5 years, he lived in a tent on the roof of one of his factories. For another 2.5 years, he slept under his desk in a factory. He has, many people don't know this, you can buy them, mini homes, Tesla homes. And he's lived in that, which was paid for by government contracts because they were under development when he was doing it. But you have somebody.
And let's not forget Doge, where he literally slept in the government buildings with his people.
Does that. But here's the thing. If somebody were to have Section 8, they're talked about. But he has the ultimate Section 8. If somebody gets any type of subsidy, let's realize the conversation that was going on when there was a slight pause to SNAP benefits. But do you know how many dinners you've paid for Elon Musk? Do you know that you're paying every day for his children to go to school? And you can't choose what school you want your children to go to? And Trump is a welfare queen. Trump hasn't paid full rent for anything ever in his life. That is Section 8. We decide to change our verbiage and our vocabulary depending on the societal financial level that somebody is on. This is why I keep it very simple and very plain when I talk about certain things. I'm not going to sit here and go, well, they received a government subsidy. They're on Section 8. The vast majority of the Trump family is on Section 8 with SNAP benefits. People who work on Capitol Hill receive free health care, aka universal health care, aka government-funded Medicare and Medicaid. Call it what it is. If you don't want to call it universal health care, call it Medicare and Medicaid.
Sounds like socialism to me.
Because when the ACA was first passed, the amount of people, this is when I was in Frankfort, Kentucky, they were like, I don't want to pay for somebody else's health insurance. Newsflash, you already do.
Yes,
and let me
do.
explain something. I've said this before, but let me say it again, and hopefully it will stick. Any form of insurance you have, guess what, Buttercup? We're paying for each other. There's no way you've had that insurance for 30 days. You crash your car and you're able to get a brand new car and you've paid in enough for that brand new car.
There's no way you started working 2 months.
For 120 days and you just started paying into your insurance at 90 days in and you were able to have your open heart surgery paid for in full. Now, am I happy those things happen? Yes, but the business model for insurance in this country is socialism.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not forget, we use the term bailout because it makes us happy. But the reality is, it's a welfare check. The farmers, you didn't have enough money to pay all your bills on your farm. Okay, well, here, we're going to give you a little bit. Just like you lost your job so you can't pay your bills. Well, here's a little unemployment. Here's a little rent assistance. Here's a little assistance for your electrical payment. The government provides, they complain about these entitlement programs. because they provide cards for people to get gas. They provide a card for people to get food. They provide a card for people to get health care. They provide vouchers for you to send your children to private school instead of public school. You know, they complain about all of these programs, but at the end of the day, the upper echelon of our country is receiving the same programs. They receive stipends in Congress to pay for their gas and their travel. They receive stipends and per diems in Congress to pay for their food while they're there. You know, they want to go out to eat a nice steak dinner down in Washington Square, right? Well, congratulations. While I'm sitting here eating ramen with hot dogs cut up in it, you're eating steak and lobster on my tax dollars. You know,
let's not forget that the wealthy, the rich, I should say, they're telling you not to utilize these programs because they're utilizing them. But also, once again, let's change our verbiage. Let's use the right verbiage. These are not entitlement programs. These are federal savings accounts for you. This is your money that you're putting away in an account, and you're drawing from it as need be. I want you to get into the mindset of how you would be if you're like, oh shoot, I got to get gas in my car today, and you go to your bank, whether to see a teller or you use the automated teller to pull money out, and they go, no, you can't pull that money out. You need to come and talk to us, and we'll determine if you can pull it out and how much you can pull it out.
Pull your own money out.
Them over here in the peanut gallery, they're going to shame you for that. How would you feel? And I'm saying that because I want you to get mad, and I want you to start giving pushback and going, wait a minute, this is my money. Because this is why they've lied to people, and you have people going, well, I'm paying for this for you, and my money's going. No, it's not. You can't pull out what you don't put in. I had to teach this to a woman, once again, in Frankfort, Kentucky. Sorry to shit on y'all, Frankfort, Kentucky, but y'all are weird. Who was mad. She thought that the federal government was scamming her because she kept trying to draw Social Security. There was no Social Security for her to draw because she never, ever, ever once in her life had a job. Not as a teenager, not as a full-grown adult, never. She went from her parents' house to her husband's house. She never even had a paper route. I said, sweetheart, there's nothing for you to pull out. They're not scamming you. You're trying to scam them. And she's like, well, I've always been taught that it was free money. Honey, ain't nothing free but a smile. And depending on where you live, that smile probably cost you $1,000 off top too.
And they're hedging
How
their
should
bets
we
with
be
Social
referring
Security.
to the richest among us? There, you know, we used to call them robber barons, and we used to call them, you know, the gilded. Bernie Sanders refers to them as the billionaire class. I'm not sure that completely
Slave
encapsulates.
masters. That's what they
Slave
are.
masters, the
They're slave
crusted
masters.
class.
I
They're
happen to
slave
think
masters. These are the people that tried to convince you, just like the OG slave masters, that we're all one big family, that you don't need more money. You need a few trinkets. We'll give you this pizza party when we cut the pizza in half. You don't want to do that to family. No, we're family. Come in for the family. The family. They're slave masters. They want to pay you the least to get the most. They have no problem killing you off to get what they want because they have no foresight past the next hour. They're not thinking about next week or next month, because as they're trying to garner enough money to buy a new yacht, who's going to build that yacht? Who's going to staff that yacht? Because they are killing off not only their workers, but the consumers they need for the profits. That's enslavement. That is mastery of enslavement.
And they're comfortable in their position because they've told themselves time and time again that the explanation is you just need to learn to live within your means. You need to learn to live within your means. The problem is not the fact that I don't pay you a livable wage. The problem is that you are incapable of living within your means.
And also,
they
just
gloss
like
it
the
over
OG
that way.
slave masters, you take away their workforce, aka their enslaved peoples, they can't survive. They don't have the skill set to sustain these companies. They don't know what's going on. They have no idea what the order of operations is. If the wrong couple of people don't show up to work, they're screwed.
Because the reality is
let us not forget the negotiations that had to go through when Bezos divorced his first wife because he didn't know how anything worked. She did.
There are very
She
few
did. We
self-made
talk
men
about how
left in
much
this
she
world.
walked away with. She walked away with that money because she had to sell him the order of operations to keep the business afloat. And now he is dependent on other people keeping it afloat because he still doesn't fully understand it. Elon Musk hasn't developed anything. He doesn't know how anything works. He reads off of a cue card like he's Trump hawking cars on the White House lawn. They don't know how it works. They don't. This is why, as much as we make fun of the French, we need to do a little parlez-vous français. Because the French are like, I know you don't know how to run this company. Oh, you don't want to pay me properly and you want to tax me more? I won't show up. And neither is anybody else. And then the owners are scrambling like, I really don't know how to run my company. I don't know how to do anything.
The general
And-
strike.
Right. And then they're tying other people's money up into these businesses. So they're liquid poor. They're liquid poor. I implore you all watching and listening, stop taking advice and looking up to people who liquid wise, as far as being able to go pull $10 out of the bank, are poorer than you. They are surviving off of credit cards. They are the OGs of robbing Peter to pay Paul and telling you that you're not doing enough. They get more handouts than anybody. Their soup kitchens are they just pull up to them in Bentleys. We have a despicable affinity for giving people with money free stuff. I want y'all to keep in mind that they collected $10 million so Erica Kirk could sustain herself. A woman who's already a millionaire, they raised $10 million to give her. But let a family in need come online or go to a community center and say, hey, we just need $200 to keep our home, and people want to nitpick them and tell them how
Woman
they
who
were
called for the
improper with
formula.
money.
The woman who called for the formula is a prime example. A mother. She didn't have a kid. It was a social experiment. But she called churches and she called people and she said, I have a crying baby. She hasn't eaten in 2 days. I just need a can of formula. I don't need money. I'm not asking for anything like that. I just need you to go buy a can of formula. And I think there was a total, she called like something like 40 churches, and I think there was a total of like 2 that helped her. You know, it's a prime example. You go to your boss, you know, people live in this world. I have somebody who said to me whenever I was struggling to pay the medical bills for my daughter for everything that happened, you know, and pay for the amputation and everything else, and trying to get that help. And the question was, well, why don't you have the money? Why can't you come up with the money?
Mhm.
Where's the money? And I'm explaining to them,
Because
you
we're
know,
spending it day by day to
work.
stay alive.
Right. I work, and I work to pay my bills. I literally, you know, I'm fortunate that I work from home, but I work. People leave their homes all day long, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, to be able to pay a bill for a home that they're never in, to be able to pay for a car that sits in a driveway and then sits in a parking lot. You know, occasionally on a weekend, they might get to take it somewhere. We pay exorbitant amounts into health insurance when we can't even afford to go to the doctor with that insurance to get a checkup when we have a cold. You know, it's and it's about to go up. I personally am going to watch my insurance go, or I was going to watch my insurance go from $900 a month to almost $2,400 a month. And I still can't afford to go to the urgent care when I think I have COVID, because to go to the urgent care, it's going to be an additional $250.
Mhm.
That's with my insurance. My daughter's, it's
Meanwhile,
amazing to me.
The ACA subsidies could be paid for by the increase in the defense budget, pushing the defense budget to nearly $1 trillion per year. Per year, by the way. That extra 34 billion that was put into the Defense Department, the ACA subsidies are 31 billion.
And also, if we would abide by the wishes of the Reagan children and reverse what their father did and go back to properly taxing the rich,
90% during
We
the
can pay for a lot of things. And to the
91%
delusional,
top tax rate during the Eisenhower administration,
Yeah.
a 74% top tax rate during the Kennedy and Johnson administrations.
and to the
Nixon,
boomers who like to lie
Carter.
to us and then criticize us, you voted for this. You knew when the change happened because you were alive. So telling us to do what you did, you know what you can do with it. But hot off the presses, coming in about 20 minutes ago from ABC News, from Laura Romero, judge orders immediate release of Kilmar
Yes.
Borrego Garcia from immigration detention. A federal judge has ordered the immediate release of Kilmar Borrego Garcia from immigration detention. U.S. District Judge Paula Zinnes said in her order Thursday that, and I quote, since Borrego Garcia's wrongful detention in El Salvador, he has been redetained again without lawful authority. So yes, we have a little bit of justice for us and the Borrego Garcia family on this good, truthful Thursday.
Probably a really good spot to end up for today because you have to be somewhere else at 11, don't you?
We have Keeping
Yep.
It Real that is our next show on GCPR Live.
Right. So that's probably a good spot to end up. I want to thank you both for taking time to help me through the morning. My deep thanks to Angry IT Nerd and to George for being here as well. Hope that the coffee beans enjoyed something a little different this morning. Thomas is due to be back with you tomorrow for Flag on the Play Friday. He is under the weather today, but I have dispensed, of course, all of my serious medical knowledge like chicken soup and orange juice and all of that good stuff. And hopefully he's doing all of those things. My deep medical knowledge, of course. You know, I'm not a doctor. I just play one on the radio. So a special thanks to all of you for tuning in this morning. Special thanks to all the guests for helping me through the morning. Thomas returns tomorrow morning. Taz returns to you from 11 a.m. from
3:30.
3:30 this afternoon. Conversations with Superplex Party tonight. Conversations with T. Nathan. Thomas tomorrow morning. So thanks, everybody. You can watch me, by the way. I would be neglect if I didn't tell you. Sundays from 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Sundays from 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And then my hope is to, as my health continues to get a little bit better, to return to you Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 on GCPR after the new year. So thanks everyone for being here. We appreciate it very, very much. Stay tuned. Well, take a break, get a cup of coffee, have lunch, do whatever it is that you need to do. Walk the dog. Taz returns to you at 3:30 today. Superplex Party, T. Nathan, Thomas tomorrow morning. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here. We appreciate it. Hang on, everybody in the room. 1 second. And I thank you all for being here. We'll see you again. I will see you on Sunday, and GCPR rolls on. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.